Welcome to the third installment of Mission 2013, Raising the Consciousness of Healthy Families. This is Dr. Mike Price with Koca Chiropractic, and we want to get into this one and talk about a little bit about where this thing we call health comes from. What really is health? If we look at just the root words of the word health, and we look at heal, the primary thing that the body was designed to do is heal itself, and that's what health is. The healthier you are, or the more health you have, the better the ability of your body to heal itself from anything that goes on. So when we look at Gray's Anatomy, which is probably the most accepted anatomy book that there is, medical schools, chiropractic schools, PTs and OTs and everyone else base everything off of Gray's Anatomy. And it states that every function of the human body is under the control of the nervous system. Its function is to coordinate all the other organs and structures and to relate the individual to his environment. So what does that mean in simple terms? The brain and the nervous system, they're all coordinated, they're all one thing. And their primary job is to keep the human body, the animal body, it's to keep that body functioning to its potential or at its normal rate that it was designed to function at, which in scientific terms we call homeostasis. It's just a big word for the normal function that the body should be able to do. So that is the primary thing that the brain and nervous system do. It's just to coordinate and innervate and organize and make sure that every other cell in the body are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So the nerves exiting the spine are what communicate or send or deliver these messages to the cells of the body, to the organs, to the tissues, and then likewise they will actually send signals back from the organs, tissues, glands, and cells to the brain, so that the brain can then monitor and decide, okay, this is what's going on in this area of the body, now I need this to happen. And so the brain can then regulate and coordinate everything that goes on. You can see in the picture here the different areas of the brain. Different areas of the brain coordinate and control different parts of the body or different functions within the body. So there's speech and hearing and balance and vision and sensation and thinking and feeling and everything else that goes on within the body is all controlled by different areas of the brain. The interesting thing to note is that to understand health is to understand the central role of the brain and nervous system in maintaining the resistance of the body. Health maintenance is the primary function of the brain, which is really cool. The primary role of the brain is not to think, it's not to talk, it's not to write poetry, it's not to do anything except control health maintenance, to keep the body functioning at its peak, to keep the body as healthy as possible. And again, that's where when we break the root down of health, where it comes in is healing. How well is the body healing? Is the body able to heal itself on its own? So that's the primary function, and that was in the book The Healing Brain by Ornstein and Sobel, who were two MDs that studied and broke down what exactly goes on within the nervous system and within the brain. So another MD and also a PhD, Jansen Edwards, stated that the quality of healing is directly proportional to the functional capability of the central nervous system to send and receive nerve messages. Again, if you've got, let's just say you cut your finger with a knife while you're cooking dinner, the ability of your brain to perceive what happened down in your finger is directly proportional to how well the finger and that area of the body, how well those cells can send messages up your arm to your brain so that your brain can then understand what is going on. That way the brain can make the best decision possible of what needs to go on and be sent back down to that area. Do platelets need to be sent there? Does more blood need to be sent there? Proteins, what needs to be sent to that part of the body to help facilitate healing and maximize the healing potential of that finger again. So the better those nerves function, the more clear that signal is, obviously the better that thing is going to function and the better that hand is going to heal, and the function of that hand in the future is going to have a higher capability of being at its best. So when we look at the central nervous system in itself, it's protected by the hardest bones in the body, the skull and the spinal vertebra. Now, nature didn't make a mistake. That wasn't by accident. Those bones are there for a reason. when we look at what the brain and the nervous system are made of, it's made of very, very delicate material. It's almost like Crisco, or just some cooking, Crisco that you would use, almost like lard, or it's literally made of fatty acids, which is why many people you'll hear mentioned to take fish oils and things like that because it helps the nervous system. Well, that's what the nervous system is made of. Also, all of your cells have fatty acids that are part of the cell membrane. Much of your body is made out of these fatty acids, which is why it's so important to have the right type in your body. But that bone is there to protect this very, very delicate material. It's extremely delicate. The weight of a dime on one of these little nerves as they exit the spine can reduce the function of that nerve by up to 60%. So that shows you what we're dealing with. If you think back to what happened to Christopher Reeve, Superman, he had a fracture of his C2 vertebra that put a large lesion, or basically a large bruise on his spinal cord up at the top. And it was enough to literally shut down the way his body was functioning. So you can imagine just having a little bit of pressure on these nerves, what that can do to the function of the cells, organs, or tissues that nerve goes to within the body. If that thing isn't working very well, then there's going to be some difficulty for those cells or that organ or those tissues to be able to function properly and work properly. So that's why these bones are there. That's why the hardest bones in the body are protecting this nervous system. It's probably a pretty important thing. I mean, nature doesn't make mistakes, like I said. So it's a very important area of the body, which is why it's so important to make sure that it's functioning at its best. There's 7 cervical vertebrae in the neck. There's 12 thoracic vertebrae between the top of your shoulders and the upper part of your low back. And then there's 5 lumbar vertebrae, which make up the lower part of your spine. And then you have your sacrum and coccyx, which are basically your tailbone at the base. And you've also got the pelvis that kind of wraps around there. So these are the bony structures within the body that make up everything. So when we talk about vertebral subluxations, it's a huge word. Everybody always says submarines. What is going on here? So what a vertebral subluxation is a misalignment in the spine that is affecting the way that nerve, the spinal cord and those nerves communicate, the way that they can send signals through there. It affects the ability of the body to basically perceive what's going on in its environment, and then obviously for the brain to be able to make proper decisions and then send proper messages back to coordinate the function down below. So when the spine's in normal alignment, those vertebrae, the one above and below, there's a disc in between, and then those nerves come out through a little hole called a foramen. When that vertebra, those two are working properly together in harmony, that hole, that foramen where that nerve comes out of, is nice and big and healthy so that nerve has no pressure on it. When we get one of those vertebrae to misalign, it gets literally stuck into place and is not able to move through its normal motion. This puts abnormal pressure down through that nerve and affects the way that nerve communicates. So subluxations and neurological function. When the central nervous system cannot send or receive the messages to those muscles, organs, glands, or tissues because of that subluxation, because of those misalignments that are affecting that nerve impulse, the function and healing potential will reduce. Now, it sounds like a very simple thing, and quite honestly it is, but it has huge ramifications on our health and literally our quality of life and how we are as human beings. When that central nervous system cannot send those messages clearly and then the brain receive them back properly, that affects how well that body will coordinate itself and function as a whole. So are subluxations always evidenced by pain or symptoms? Everyone always thinks we go to a chiropractor for back pain, neck pain, things like that. Headaches sometimes. But really, subluxations, you cannot feel them. They're not something that you're going to necessarily feel because less than 10% of your nervous system actually deals with sensory or pain, pressure, hot and cold temperatures, and things like that. 90% of your nervous system controls the motors portion, which is the muscles, and then the autonomic portion, which is all of the organs, tissues, glands, digestion and breathing and your energy levels and everything like that. So there's a huge chunk of everything that can really be interfered with, and you'll have no pain whatsoever because of how small a part of the nervous system that sensory portion really is. So that's why when we tell people to come and get checked for a subluxation or that they need to get checked, it's because there's a lot of things that can be going on within your body that you don't even know it's there. And a great example of that is someone who has a heart attack. The number one sign or symptom of a heart attack is actually the heart attack itself over 60% of the time. So when we see someone who has a heart attack and you ask them, in most cases how they were feeling the day before, they were feeling just fine. But were they really functioning well on the inside? No. Something was going on in there to limit how well that heart was functioning, and it just the next day finally got to the point where it couldn't do what it was designed to do, and the body responded in that way. So pain and symptoms is not a great indicator of how healthy you are. Again, the best indicator is how well that central nervous system is functioning, so that we know that your body is healing to its optimum potential. Because when it's healing to its best potential, that means your body has its best optimal ability to function as the best it can, have the best health possible, and have the highest quality of life possible. We'll see you guys next month.